In this first, we will see the physiological effect of electrical current. In this chart, I given the range of the current and effects of these currents on the human body. If current is 1 milliampere, then it is a threshold of perception. Second, 5 milliampere current, it accepted as a maximum harmless current intensity. 10 to 20 milliampere is considered as a let go current before sustained muscular contraction. 50 milliampere current, it gives a pain, possible fainting, exhaustion, and mechanical injury. Heart and respiratory functions continues normally. 100 to 300 milliampere, it gives a ventricular fibrillation and will be start, but respiration centers remains intact. Greater than 6 ampere current, sustained myocardial contraction followed by normal heart rhythm, but temporary respiratory paralysis will be occurred. In this, burn is possible. So these are the physiological effect of electrical current. Next we will see the macroshock and microshock. In macroshock, a physiological response to a current applied to the surface of the body that produces unwanted or unnecessary stimulation like muscle contraction or a tissue injury is called microshock. For example, taking the lowest body resistance as a 1 kilo ohm inter-electrode voltage is of in the order of 75 to 120 volt could be dangerous, and hospital patients and medical attendants are exposed to microshock, defective electronic devices and biomedical equipment. To produce macroshock, much large current is required because current distributes itself throughout the body. Obviously, the current at the heart is much lower in this case and more current is required to cause the shock. Second, microshock. A physiological response to a current applied to the surface of the heart that results in an unwanted stimulation like muscle contraction or a tissue injury is called microshock. Microshock is most often caused when current is excess of 10 microampere flow through a insulated catheter to the heart. Now we will see the preventive measures to reduce the shock hazards. First, all equipments should be properly grounded. Never adapt a 3-wire to a 2-wire outlet. Never use a broken cord. Do not use equipment the patient has brought from home. Next one, rubber gloves should be placed over the pacer terminal. Wear rubber gloves when working with the pacer, generator or a wire. Next one, keep the patient and patient area dry in case electrical equipment. And electrical equipment must be checked at least every 6 months. Now we will see the effects of radiation exposure. In this chart I given the dosage of radiation and also effects of ionization radiation on human being. When radiation dose is 0.03, then average dose from chest X-ray. 5. Annual exposure limit for the person who are handling nuclear medicine and X-rays. 10. Leukemia and cancer. 10 to 25. Changes in blood cells. 100 to 200. omitting with 3 hours at about 125 hours and hair loss within 5 to 10 days. 225. Death within 60 days for 5% of those exposed. 400. Death within 60 days for 50% of those exposed. 500 to 600. Death within 60 days for 90% of those exposed. If radiation dose is 1000, then omitting and death within 3 hours in a single exposure. Now we will see the ill effects of e-waste. The content of a lead can affect the central nervous system and affect brain development in children. Cadmium can cause neural damage and accumulated in kidney and liver. Mercury can respiratory. Now we will see the effects of e-waste. These ill effects you are getting because of the e-waste materials. First, content of lead can affect the central nervous system and affect brain development in children. Cadmium can cause neural damage when the accumulated in kidney and liver. Third one, mercury causes respiratory and skin disorders. Chromium causes DNA damage. Plastic will decrease human system efficiency and damage to reproductive organs of the body. Barium causes muscular weakness and can damage heart, lung and liver. Beryllium can cause lung cancer, chronic disease and skin disease in e-waste materials. Now we will see the how to dispose the e-waste materials. First we will see the definition of e-waste. E-waste is considered as a dangerous as a certain components of some electronic products, certain materials that are hazardous depending on their condition and density. There are different methods are used in disposal of e-waste. First is the landfilling. It is one of the most widely used method for disposal of e-waste. In landfilling, trenches are made on the flat surface. Soil is extracted from the trenches and waste material is burnt in it, which covered by the thick layer of soil. The degeneration process in landfills are very complicated and run over a wide time span. The environmental risk from landfilling of e-waste cannot be neglected. Second method is the incineration. It is controlled and complete combustion process in which the waste material is burned in specially designed incinerators at a high temperature. The temperature is 900 to 1000 degrees Celsius. The advantage of incineration of e-waste is the reproduction of waste volume and the utilization of the energy content of a combustible materials to some plant. Remove iron from the slag for recycling. By incineration, some environmental hazards of organic substances are converted into less hazardous compounds. Third type of disposal of e-waste material, that is recycling of e-waste. Monitor, CRT, laptop, modems, hard drives, memory chips can be recycled. Recycling involves Dismantling, that is removal of different parts of e-waste containing dangerous substances like PCB, HG, separation of plastic, removal of CRT and non-ferrous materials and printed circuit boards. Recyclers are use strong acid to remove precious metals such as copper, lead and gold. The value of recycling from the element could be much higher if appropriate technology are used. Therefore, recycling is the better possible option. Fourth method, that is the reuse. It constitutes a direct second use or a use after slight modification to the third type of disposal of e-waste is a recycling of e-waste. Monitor Third method is a recycling of e-waste. Monitor, CRT, laptop, modems, hard drives, memory chips can be recycled. Recycling involves dismantling, that is removal of different parts of e-waste containing dangerous substances like PCB, HG, separation of plastic, removal of CRT and non-ferrous metals, and also printed circuit boards. Recyclers use strong acid to remove precious metals such as copper and gold. The value of recycling from the element could be much higher if appropriate technologies are used. Therefore, recycling is the best possible option. Fourth method, that is a reuse. It constitutes a direct second use or a use after slight modifications to the original function in equipment. It is commonly used for electronic equipments like computers, cell phones, etc. Inkjet cartridge is also used after refilling. This method also reduces the volume of e-waste generation. So we can use above mentioned methods for disposal of e-waste. Now we will see the telemedicine applications. In the telemedicine, the first one application is the teleradiology. So teleradiology images such as X-ray, CT scan or MRI images can be transferred from one location to another location for expert consultation. Second, telepathology. To obtain an expert opinion on the microscopic images of a pathology slides and a biopsy report from specialist. Third, telecardiology. Telecardiology relates to the transmission of ECG, echocardiography and color Doppler. Fourth application, that is a tele-education, delivery of medical education programs to the physician and paramedics located at a similar town who are professionally isolated from major medical centers. Teleconsultation. Specialist doctors can be consulted either by a patient directly or by the local medical staff through telemedicine technology. So these are the telemedicine applications are used. Now we will see the block diagram of single channel telemetry system. So in this block diagram, two parts are there. One side is the transmitter part, another one side is the receiver part is there. So in transmitter part, transmitter is the subcarrier modulator, ECG amplifier and it requires a battery supply. In receiving part, RF amplifier, demodulator, heart rate monitor, cardioscope, tape recorder and graphic recorder is there. In the single channel telemetry system, using the ECG machine, they are sense all the ECG signals. Those signals are amplified and these signals are modulated using the carrier frequency. And this modulated signal is transmitted using the transmitter. At the receiver end, using the antenna, they are receiving the signals and then it passes through the RF amplifier. Then in demodulator, they are receiving or they are getting original ECG signals. And those original ECG signals, it gives to the heart rate monitor. You are getting the direct heart rate of that person. Then we are getting the tape recorder. So using the tape recorder, we are getting the hard copy. Then graphic recorder is there. So in graphic recorder, you are getting the graphical representation of the ECG signals. Then those graphical signals we can display on the oscilloscope or on cardioscope. So this one is the single channel telemetry system. So why it called it as a single channel? Because in this channel telemetry system, only one ECG signal can send for using this telemetry system only. So it called it as a single. Now we will see the essential parameters of telemedicine. First is the primary patient data. It includes name, age, occupation, sex, address, telephone number and register number. Second, patient history. It includes personal and family history and diagnostic reports. Third, clinical information. It includes symptoms or interpretation of data obtained from direct and indirect patient observations. Fourth, investigations. It includes a complete analysis report of technology and biochemistry test, stool and urine examination. Sixth, data and reports. It includes radiography, MRI, CT scan, ultrasound and nuclear medicine images and reports, pathology slides, electrocardiogram and spirograms. These are information is included in these parameters. So these are the essential parameters of the telemedicine. Next, classify the medical devices as per the safety standards. In this, first class 1. The devices belongs to this class have no interchange of energy with the patient and therefore they have the lowest risk. In this category, the hospital beds, cervical collars, corrective classes, stethoscope for diagnosis, eye occlusion plasters, conductive gels, non-invasive electrodes for electroencephalogram or electrocardiography. These devices are comes under the class 1. Class 2A. In this class, the risk increases. Example of devices, contact lenses, urinary catheters, needle of syringes, dental fillings materials and pins, muscle stimulators, hearing aids, magnetic resonance equipments and X-ray films. Class 2B. These devices have risk level between class 2A and class 3. Example of these devices: hemodialysis concentrates, severe pressure wound, brachytherapy devices, prosthetic joint replacement, lung ventilators. Class 3. In this includes medical devices posing highest risk. Example of devices: biological heart valves, vascular prostheses, spinal and vascular stents, central nervous system electrodes. These are the devices which comes under the different safety standards. Now we will see the telemedicine using mobile communication. So this one is the block diagram for the mobile communication. One side mobile station is there, another side fixed station is there. So using the satellite we can exchange the medical information. Mobile communication have opened up new possibilities for mobile telemedicine in emergency situations. In a moving vehicle, color images, audio signals, and physiological signals such as ECG, blood pressure are obtained from the patient. These images and signals are multiplexed and transmitted to the fixed station. In fixed station, these signals are received and demultiplexed and presented to a medical specialist. Instructions from the specialist then transmitted back to the mobile station through the communication link. In mobile communication, the capacity of transmission link is generally limited and is a typical 10 kilobits per second to the 100 kilobits per second. These capacities are far below those required for the transmission of medically significant information. So, by adopting data compression on the video, audio, ECG, and blood pressure signals are transmitted, the total capacity required is about 19 kilobits per second, which is well within the practical capacity of a mobile communication link. The different parameters and data is compressed in definite ratios, and then only that compressed data is transmitted towards the fixed station. So these are the number of the questions from the 6th chapter.